Listen to me. Your entire life is about to shift right here, right now. If you've been frustrated, stuck, confused, spinning your wheels in prayer with no traction, this is why. Because you've been trying to build success without divine structure. And the King of Glory doesn't bless disorder. He blesses alignment. And that's why this message is not a suggestion. It's a kingdom mandate. I'm talking about what really happens when you stop putting everything else first and you finally seek the kingdom of God like your life depends on it, because it does. This isn't churchy. This isn't emotional. This is a spiritual, governmental realignment of your entire being. You are about to go from broke to built, from frustrated to favored, from overwhelmed to overloaded with overflow. But it starts when you flip the switch, when you put God's kingdom first. If you're ready, don't blink. Don't scroll. Don't sit back. This is the message hell hoped you'd never hear. Let's go. When you seek the kingdom first, you activate divine order. There's a reason your life doesn't feel like it's flowing. You've got ideas, you've got ambition, and you're even praying, but the chaos hasn't left. The confusion still lingers. The frustration still whispers at night. And the reason why isn't because God isn't working. It's because you haven't prioritized the order that unlocks heaven's system on earth. You don't just need a breakthrough. You need divine order. And divine order only comes when you follow God's divine hierarchy. He said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness." That word first means before anything else. It doesn't mean when it's convenient. It doesn't mean after the business plan. It doesn't mean after the morning scroll. It doesn't mean when you feel like it or after the crisis hits. It means first. Because what you seek first determines what you live under. What you put first becomes your government. So if money is first, you're ruled by anxiety. If popularity is first, you're ruled by insecurity. If self is first, you're ruled by pride. But when the kingdom is first, the kingdom rules. And when the kingdom rules, everything else comes into alignment. Divine order is not about perfection, it's about priority. God is not asking for perfect people. He's asking for aligned people. When God is first, everything else gets filtered through righteousness. Your relationships start aligning. Your mindset starts expanding. Your calendar starts reflecting heaven's rhythm instead of the world's rush. Your conversations begin to carry grace and weight instead of noise and emptiness. The difference isn't that life got easier. The difference is that you finally submitted to the design. Because the kingdom is not a theory, it's a system. It's not just church talk, it's the governing reality of heaven. And God is not moved by desperation, he's moved by divine alignment. You don't move heaven by being loud. You move heaven by being aligned. When you operate outside of God's order, you don't just delay the promise, you disrupt the pattern. God designed success to flow from the kingdom, not apart from it. When you wake up and check your phone before you check in with God, your day is already out of sync. When you build the business plan and then ask God to bless it, you've already placed yourself as king. But when you wake up and say, Lord, what do you want me to build today? What assignment is on your agenda? Now you're building in the blueprint of heaven. Divine order means you don't just invite God into your plans, you seek his plan first. You don't just ask God to bless your vision, you ask him for his vision. Because the moment you put the kingdom first, clarity begins to come. And with clarity comes confidence. And with confidence comes power. Because the kingdom doesn't produce confusion, it produces cohesion. Your life is not meant to feel random. Your goals are not supposed to feel disconnected. Your success is not supposed to feel like it's up to you. When you're under divine order, you stop trying to control everything and you start walking in a flow. You realize that you're not the CEO of your destiny, you're the steward of his kingdom. And when you embrace that, stress breaks off. Chaos breaks off, confusion lifts, and in its place comes divine precision. The world says hustle harder, the kingdom says align deeper. The world says do more, the kingdom says seek first. And when you seek first, you stop striving in your flesh and start flowing in his spirit. Because the kingdom is not activated by performance, it's activated by priority. God didn't promise to add things to your life because you prayed hard. He promised to add all things because you sought him first. So if you're not seeing the addition, it's not a God problem, it's a priority problem. And the moment you reorder your life around the kingdom, the flow begins again. Heaven responds not to your desperation, but to your devotion. So the next time you feel stuck, the next time your progress stalls, the next time you feel spiritually dry or emotionally exhausted, don't just look for a new opportunity. Don't just look for another breakthrough sermon. Ask yourself one bold, uncomfortable question. Is the kingdom still first? Because until the kingdom is first, nothing else will function right. And the beauty is, when you put it first, you don't have to chase blessings. They start chasing you. Divine order doesn't mean you control the outcomes. It means you're aligned with the one who already wrote them. So you walk in peace when others are in panic. You move with clarity while others are in chaos. Because you're not navigating based on trends, you're living based on truth. And that truth is this: the kingdom first isn't a preference, it's a principle. It's not optional for success, it's the origin of it. Until the kingdom is first, your foundation is fragile. But the moment you put it first, your life becomes unshakable, not because of your strength, but because of the system you finally surrendered to. The kingdom gives you the keys, not just a feeling. Some of you are stuck because you've been taught to seek a religious experience instead of kingdom authority. You're waiting to feel goosebumps in worship, but you're not walking in the keys that unlock dominion. Because the kingdom of God is not about emotional highs, it's about supernatural access. Jesus didn't come to give you a feeling. He came to give you keys. He said, "Behold, I give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven." Not the keys of religion, not the keys of routine, the keys of the kingdom. That means you've been given access to operate under heaven's government on earth. But here's the catch. Keys are useless if you never learn how to use them. You can shout, you can dance, you can speak in tongues, but if you're not using your kingdom keys, you're still locked out of destiny, because doors don't respond to emotion. Doors respond to authority. And that authority only functions under the rule of the kingdom. You've got people praying for open doors, but ignoring the keys in their hand. The key is not in your hustle. The key is not in your followers. The key is not in your charm. The key is in your alignment with the kingdom. And when you use that key, things start to move. Systems shift. Atmospheres bend. Circumstances respond. Because you're not just reacting, you're governing. Governance is not just for pastors and preachers, it's for sons and daughters. You are not here to survive the culture, you are here to subdue it. But you can't subdue what you're afraid of, you can't transform what you still tolerate, and you can't unlock what you refuse to claim. The reason many believers are exhausted is because they're operating like renters instead of owners. Renters request, owners command. Renters beg for maintenance, owners take dominion. When you don't know the keys you carry, you'll live like a visitor in a place God already gave you authority over. The keys of the kingdom don't just unlock blessings, they unlock identity. When you walk in your kingdom identity, you don't panic in warfare, you legislate in faith. You don't just react to attacks, you respond with strategy. You don't live under fear, you function under favor. Said, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. That's not poetry, that's power. And that power was placed in your hands the moment you received the keys. But if you leave the keys sitting on the shelf, don't be surprised when you're still locked out of purpose. Access unused is authority wasted. And the enemy's strategy is to distract you from using your keys, to convince you that you're powerless. When you're already positioned, you were never called to plead with life. You were called to prophesy to it. You were never meant to be confused about your next move. You were given access to strategies from heaven. The key is not trying harder. The key is seeking the kingdom until the revelation comes and activation happens, because the kingdom doesn't. just change how you feel. It changes what you can do. And when you start walking in that kind of power, the world doesn't just see a believer, it sees a builder, a reformer, a governor, a son or daughter with full access, moving in full authority, using every key the king already handed them. Kingdom never lack when the kingdom is your priority. Lack loses its grip. There's a bold shift that happens when a believer truly steps into alignment with divine priority. Heaven doesn't make you chase, it makes you magnetic. You stop living in pursuit mode and start operating in possession mode. Not because you manipulated it, not because you begged for it, but because what you seek first determines what seeks you. The word doesn't say, all these things you shall labor for. It says all these things shall be added unto you. That's the language of divine economy. That's heaven's system at work. In the natural, you work to gain. But in the kingdom, you align to receive. Because addition is not the reward of hustle, it's the manifestation of priority. When the kingdom is first, provision doesn't have to be hunted. It is attracted to you by design. Favor isn't random. Provision isn't accidental. Divine resources are coded to locate those who walk in divine order. The blessing of the Lord doesn't follow the loudest cry. It follows the greatest alignment. And when alignment is established, attraction is automatic. You don't attract wealth by being desperate. You attract it by being positioned. You attract opportunities by being under assignment. You attract the right people, the right doors, the right timing, not because you're impressive, but because your life reflects the king, and the king doesn't allow his ambassadors to live like beggars. He backs those who represent his government. You weren't designed to live your life chasing scraps, chasing affirmation, chasing success. When you're running after the kingdom commands everything you need to start chasing you. Resources start showing up that you didn't ask for. People begin to bless you and don't know why. Systems shift in your favor and you didn't pull any strings. Why? Because the kingdom makes you a magnet for heaven's supply. When you seek him first, you are not just blessed, you become a portal of blessing. You carry divine currency everywhere you go. You don't just walk into rooms hoping something happens. You shift the room because something is flowing from you. And that something is the government of God, the glory of God, the economy of the kingdom that is now working through your life. You don't have to market your anointing when you're moving in alignment. Heaven markets you. God puts your name in rooms you've never entered. He places your face in the minds of decision makers. He causes kings to have dreams about you, because when the kingdom is your first pursuit, favor becomes your permanent location. You don't just become attractive to resources, you become repellent to lack. Lack starts running from you because your life no longer agrees with its frequency. Fear starts getting nervous because your atmosphere is full of faith. Confusion starts packing up because your steps are ordered. There's a tangible authority that radiates from those who have made the kingdom their obsession. People who chase money get weary. People who chase recognition get bitter. But those who chase the kingdom are carried by something supernatural. You're not chasing because the blessing is on assignment to chase you. That's not motivational fluff. That's divine protocol. You don't have to network yourself into overflow. You don't have to manipulate your way into the next level. When the kingdom is first, everything follows. You attract what you're aligned with. If you're aligned with fear, you attract chaos. If you're aligned with pride, you attract opposition. But if you're aligned with the kingdom, you attract what heaven wants you to carry. You attract legacy. You attract increase. You attract divine solutions, not just more stuff, because the kingdom doesn't feed greed. It feeds God's will on the earth. You'll find that The more you seek the kingdom, the less impressed you are by materialism, and yet the more material flows into your life for the purpose of assignment. That's kingdom paradox. You stop seeking to gain for you, and God starts bringing gain through you. You become a vessel of value, not just wealthy, but weighty. The secret to living in overflow is not grinding harder, it's aligning deeper. God never intended for you to live paycheck to paycheck, spiritually, mentally, or financially. He designed you to be the lender, not the borrower, to live above only and not beneath. And that's not motivational, that's governmental. That's what happens when you finally choose to seek the kingdom with everything you've got. Your provision is attached to your position. Provision is not random. It's not occasional. It's not a surprise when. It shows up. Provision is a response to spiritual position. If you are not positioned properly, you can pray all you want, you can shout all night long, but nothing moves until you do, because heaven responds to placement. The reason many believers are still in lack is not because God is withholding, it's because they are misaligned. When God looks for where to pour, he's looking for obedience, not opinion. He doesn't bless your potential, he blesses your position. And your position is always determined by your pursuit. You can't be out of position and expect full provision. You can't ignore instruction and expect divine supply. Provision follows assignment. The money is not where you want to go, the money is where you were sent. You can't command overflow while being stationed in disobedience. And too many people are praying for provision in locations that God never called them to stand in. You're asking God to bless your business, but he told you to build the ministry first. You're asking him for clients, but he's waiting for you to finish the course he gave you to write. You're praying for income, but ignoring the instruction that was supposed to unlock it, because heaven doesn't fund ego. Heaven funds purpose. God never fails to provide for what he assigned. The Israelites had manna in the wilderness, not because they were smart, but because they were positioned. The ravens fed Elijah, not because he was popular, but because he was where God told him to be. Provision met him at the place of obedience, not the place of convenience. That's the secret. Your provision is not tied to your feelings, it's tied to your location in the Spirit. Some of you are praying for open doors, but you're not even standing in the right hallway. You're asking for blessings, but you're camped out in rebellion. You're searching for fruit, but you're planted in the wrong soil. And fruit only grows when you are rooted in the right place. Position is not about physical space, it's about spiritual posture. Are you surrendered? Are you submitted? Are you yielded to the voice of God even when it doesn't make sense? That's what qualifies you for provision, because obedience is the address where heaven delivers. And let's be clear, God doesn't provide to make you comfortable. He provides to empower you to complete your kingdom assignment. The provision is for purpose, not pleasure. That doesn't mean he won't bless you with overflow, but the overflow follows obedience, not entitlement. He's not your assistant, he's your king. He doesn't report to your plan, you report to his throne. This is why provision feels hard for some people, because they're still trying to be the architect when God already laid the blueprint. You weren't called to design the outcome, you were called to obey the command. And when you do, the resource shows up, not because of who you are, but because of whose instructions you followed. Provision is precise. Heaven doesn't waste resources. God is not going to bless you to build a tower in Babylon when he told you to build an altar in Bethel. The resource is tied to the revelation. And when you act on the revelation, the resource comes without delay. You don't have to force it. You don't have to fake it. You just have to be there when it arrives. And here's what separates kingdom people from religious people. Religion waits for permission to move, but kingdom people move when the word comes. And that movement, bold, risky, radical, is what positions them for supernatural supply. Because provision is never passive, it's activated by obedience. The more radical your obedience, the more radical your provision, the more you align with heaven's frequency, the more abundance starts to track you down. Because the supply is tied to the place God told you to be, not the place you're comfortable standing in. The kingdom first mindset burns religion and builds dominion. Religion will train you how to sit down and behave. The kingdom teaches you how to stand up and rule. Religion tells you to survive until heaven comes. The kingdom tells you to bring heaven here. Religion waits for the afterlife. The kingdom calls you to transform this life. That's why when you seek the kingdom first, something radical begins to happen inside of you. You stop thinking like a churchgoer and you start thinking like a governor. The kingdom first mindset isn't just about praying more, it's about ruling more. It's not about being saved and silent, it's about being saved and sent. Religion will tell you to come to church and sit down, but the kingdom says you are the church. Now go out and occupy. Jesus didn't die so you could attend a building once a week. He died so you could govern the earth in his name with his power for his glory. You weren't called to fit in. You were called to subdue. The word says be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, and subdue it. That's not religious language. That's the language of dominion. You were created to govern regions, industries, atmospheres. You're not here just to quote scriptures. You're here to establish territory for the king. The enemy doesn't fear a believer who can quote a verse. He fears the one who executes what that verse was meant to establish. When you seek the kingdom first, you stop asking permission to be powerful. You stop hiding behind your personality type. You stop excusing passivity as humility. You stop shrinking your influence to make people feel comfortable. You realize that kingdom people were never meant to blend in. They were born to stand out and take ground. The kingdom burns the fluff and builds fire. It burns compromise and builds conviction. It destroys false humility and installs bold authority. You begin to see life through a new lens. You don't just ask, what does God want from me? You ask, where does God want to release dominion through me? Because the kingdom is about function, not form. It's about assignments, not attendance. It's about power, not performance. The kingdom first mindset will offend religious people. It will irritate the lukewarm. It will frustrate the passive, because it doesn't apologize for authority. It doesn't shrink back to fit tradition. It doesn't dilute truth to make people feel better about compromise. Religion says stay safe. Kingdom says take territory. Religion teaches survival. The kingdom commands dominion. That's why the kingdom first mindset activates something dangerous inside you. It causes you to wake up to your true identity. You realize you are not just a Christian. You are not just forgiven. You are not just on your way to heaven. You are a citizen of the highest government in existence. And that citizenship comes with access, authority, and assignment. You start making decisions differently. You don't move based on opportunity. You move based on obedience. You don't follow what looks good. You follow what's God-governed. You don't compromise for comfort. You rise for conquest. The kingdom rewires your default setting. It overrides worldly logic with supernatural insight. It doesn't ask what's safe, ask what's set. This mindset teaches you that your life is not your own. You are a vessel of divine expansion. You are heaven's strategy for this generation. You are God's investment in this era. And heaven expects a return on its investment. The kingdom doesn't just save you from hell, it saves you for assignment. It doesn't just keep you from sin, it positions you for rulership. That's why you can't settle. That's why you can't back down. That's why you can't let religion lull you to sleep with safe sermons and soft convictions. The kingdom burns the religious ceiling. It breaks the glass box of mediocrity. It destroys the doctrine of delay. You don't wait for favor, you walk in it. You don't hope for breakthrough, you speak it. You don't wish for increase, you command it. Because you are not a churchgoer, you are a kingdom And carriers don't just attend atmospheres, they shift them. You begin to understand that your prayer life isn't for survival, it's for strategic rulership. Your worship isn't emotional release, it's spiritual warfare. Your giving isn't about charity, it's governmental exchange. Everything you do becomes infused with power, purpose, and heaven's weight. Because you're not just living for a spiritual experience, you're living for territorial expansion. Religion says stay out of politics, business, media, and education. The kingdom says take it all. Religion builds walls. The kingdom builds gates. Religion protects its space. The kingdom invades new space. That's why when kingdom is first, you're no longer looking for revival to happen in a tent. You're expecting it to happen in your office, your family, your finances, your influence. You're not waiting for someone else to do it. You understand you were born for it. This mindset doesn't let you sit comfortably in complacency. It confronts your passivity. It disrupts your routines. It stretches your capacity. Because you weren't saved to stay hidden. You were redeemed to be released. You weren't rescued to stay quiet. You were equipped to reign. You were built to carry the presence and enforce the policies of heaven. You were born to influence systems, not just sing in sanctuaries. The kingdom is not interested in church culture, it's interested in global takeover. And that takeover begins when people stop idolizing religion and start embracing dominion. When the kingdom becomes first, mediocrity becomes intolerable. Fear becomes foreign, excuses become irrelevant. Because dominion doesn't allow laziness to survive. It doesn't let potential rot. It demands you move in power, precision, and prophetic clarity. The kingdom first mindset makes you dangerous to hell because now you're not just praying for change, you are the change. You're not just singing about victory, you're executing it in every sphere God sends you into. The kingdom redefines success, and if you ask God for more openness, you will be measured in merit. And I pray that the kingdom redefines success. In the world is measured by numbers, applause, and clout. It's how many followers, how many figures, how many people know your name. But in the kingdom, success is measured by obedience, fruit, and eternal impact. In the world, success is about being famous. In the kingdom, success is about being faithful. That's why when you truly seek the kingdom first, your definition of winning begins to die. The version of success you inherited from the culture begins to collapse. The idea that you have to look rich to be respected, or be seen to be significant, or hustle endlessly to prove your value. All of it gets burned in the fire of truth. Because the kingdom does not operate by human metrics. It operates by divine mandate. The kingdom isn't impressed by your titles. It's not wowed by your possessions. What God calls success is radically different. Did you obey when no one was watching? Did you love when it cost you everything? Did you build what he told you to, even when it made no sense? That's success in heaven's court. That's what gets written in eternity. The world says, build your brand. The kingdom says, build his altar. The world says, stack wealth. The kingdom says, steward it for impact. The world says, be great. The kingdom says, be governed. Because the greatest in the kingdom is not the one with the platform, but the one who carries the presence. When you put the kingdom first, you stop asking, what's in it for me? And you start asking, what does heaven require of me? Because true success is not comfort, it's conformity to Christ. It's laying down what the world said you had to become and picking up the blueprint God wrote before time began. It's trading your ego for eternal significance. It's letting go of the addiction to applause so you can receive the assignment to advance. You're not chasing success, you're becoming a solution. You're not looking to get ahead, you're looking to lift what heaven once built. And in doing so, success follows you, not as a reward for performance, but as the fruit of alignment. When you seek the kingdom first, you begin to see success as responsibility. Your influence is not for vanity, it's for victory. Your income is not for indulgence, it's for investment into purpose. Your promotion is not for ego, it's for establishing heaven's presence in a new sphere of authority. Every level you rise to is not just for celebration, it's for governance. Because when God raises you up, it's not for you to sit high, it's for you to lift others, build systems, and enforce his will. You start to understand that fruit is more important than fame. Legacy is more important than likes. Impact is more important than income. You trade being seen for being strategic. You're no longer seduced by vanity metrics. You're obsessed with visible obedience. Your greatest desire is not success that trends, it's success that transforms. The kingdom will have you walk away from offers that the world would die for because those offers don't match your assignment. The kingdom will lead you into seasons that look like decrease, but are actually set up for overflow. It doesn't reward hustle, it rewards honor. Honor of God's voice, honor of God's time, honor of God's order. And that honor unlocks the kind of success that doesn't just bless you, it outlives you. You stop being addicted to outcomes and start being surrendered to process. You understand that if God isn't in it, it's not success, it's distraction. If God didn't assign it, it's not promotion, it's temptation. If God isn't building it, it's not legacy, it's just noise. Because kingdom success is not what you build for yourself, it's what you build with God that multiplies for generations. That's why when the kingdom is first, you don't just win, you win well. You build with purity. You grow with power. You lead with integrity. You multiply with mission. You understand that you are not here to build a name. You are here to build a throne, not for yourself, but for the King who sent you, saved you, and now sends you out to conquer, not to coast, to reign, not to rest, to transform, not to trend, because that's what kingdom success truly looks like. The kingdom makes you an atmosphere, not just an attendee. When you seek the kingdom first, you stop blending into atmospheres and start becoming one. You are no longer walking into rooms hoping something shifts. You walk in knowing you are the shift. You don't wait for someone else to pray, someone else to speak up, someone else to bring the power. You understand that heaven has authorized you to carry the temperature of the kingdom. You're not affected by the mood of the room because you've already been infected by the Spirit of the King. Your presence becomes prophetic. Your voice becomes legislation. Your discernment becomes precise, because the kingdom doesn't just teach you how to survive, it teaches you how to govern environments. You start showing up in places where confusion used to live, and suddenly clarity comes. You step into businesses, teams, families, and industries, and peace starts flowing. You're not just bringing comfort, you're bringing divine correction. You're not just a believer in a crowd, you are a gatekeeper in the Spirit. You know how to walk in with honor and authority, with grace and fire, with boldness and humility. Because when the kingdom is first, you're not reacting to the world, you're recalibrating it everywhere you step. When the kingdom is first, your identity gets upgraded. You cannot seek the kingdom and still think like a victim. You cannot pursue the kingdom and still operate from insecurity. Because the moment the kingdom becomes your focus, your identity shifts. You stop calling yourself what the world labeled you, and you start declaring what heaven already named you. You're no longer driven by trauma. You are driven by truth. You're no longer stuck in past patterns. You're locked into eternal purpose. The kingdom doesn't just upgrade your income, it upgrades your identity. You start walking like a king's kid. You speak with authority, not apology. You command things, not wish for them. You don't wait for someone to approve your calling. You walk boldly in what God already ordained. Your faith becomes fierce. Your confidence becomes holy. You no longer shrink when warfare shows up. You rise with kingdom posture because your identity is no longer fragile. It's fortified in the rule of God. Kingdom, migment, cancellous, earthly anxiety. When you seek the kingdom first, anxiety starts to break off because you are no longer submitting your mind to the world system. You're not worried about how it's going to happen. You're locked into who already declared it would. You're not stressing over how the bills will be paid, how the opportunity will come, how the door will open, because the king takes care of what he rules. When the kingdom is first, fear loses its license to speak. Panic has no seat at your table. You don't live under pressure, you live under promise. You start moving with peace that confuses people. You start resting while others are rushing because you've shifted your source. You're not fed by likes, attention, or the opinions of men. Your soul is fed by the government of God, and that government has never lost power. Kingdom priority produces kingdom results. When you prioritize the kingdom, you stop getting random results. Your life becomes strategic. Your time gets maximized. Your results get multiplied, not by accident, but by alignment, because the kingdom doesn't waste energy, it directs it. You're no longer working aimlessly, you're building purposefully. You're not throwing things at the wall hoping they stick. You're following divine blueprints with supernatural backing. You begin to realize that the reason some believers stay stuck is because they want kingdom results without kingdom order. But when the kingdom is truly first, your results are no longer dependent on trends. They're the fruit of truth in motion. Everything you touch carries clarity. Every room you enter carries weight, and every goal you pursue becomes soaked in glory. You now understand the difference between a kingdom lifestyle and a worldly life full of wishful thinking. When you seek the kingdom of God first, you don't just activate divine order, you unlock the realm where everything has to align. You're not running after provision. Provision is running after you. You're not begging doors to open. You're carrying keys. You don't need man's approval when heaven already authorized you. You learn that when the kingdom is your mindset, religion gets burned and dominion gets built. Success stops being shallow and starts being supernatural. Your anxiety breaks under the weight of alignment. Your identity shifts from victim to vessel of glory. You walk in atmospheres not hoping to be received, but knowing you've been sent to shift the room. You're not working for random results anymore. You're producing kingdom fruit. That's the difference alignment makes. So don't leave this message and go back to normal. Tear down every system in your life that doesn't reflect the kingdom. Rebuild your habits, your vision, your relationships, and your strategy with heaven's order as the foundation. Because when the kingdom is first, everything else will be added. This is the kind of revelation we carry every day here on the Myron Golden track. So if you're tired of fluff and ready to walk in faith, finances, and fruit, make sure you hit that subscribe button, comment below what hit your spirit, and share this with someone who needs kingdom alignment right now. Your next level isn't waiting on more effort, it's waiting on divine order. Let's build the kingdom, let's walk in dominion, and let's do it first. Now listen, if this message shook something loose in your spirit, don't you dare keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with 5 people right now who need to break out of delay and step into divine order. Drop a comment below and declare kingdom first, everything else follows. And make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned all the way on, because this isn't a one-time sermon, this is a whole movement. And if you've been blessed by what you're hearing on the Myron Golden track, don't just watch, partner with us, hit that join button and become a member today. You're not just supporting content, you're building kingdom infrastructure, expanding global reach, and helping unlock destinies all over the world. Oh, and here's the drop you didn't see coming. The Myron Golden team is about to launch something we've never done before. A dedicated Kingdom Bible study channel built for serious believers, radical revelation, and word-rich, spirit-led teaching that breaks chains and builds kings. No fluff, no compromise, just pure, unfiltered truth with power. If you're